Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is March the 22nd, 2024, and we are continuing our study on the Passover. We're going to be looking at the Feast of Unleavened Bread in this study. Let's see here, let's get our little chart here out of the week of unleavened bread. So we just discussed the sacrifice, the day of the sacrifice, and the sacrificial lamb. And we are now going to take a closer look at throughout the Bible, the day of unleavened bread, which is the first day of the year, is referred to as the week of unleavened bread. So, and it's called that because we're told to eat unleavened bread for 7 days. So we're going to take a look at that and find out exactly why that is or what it's about. We're going to see what the Bible says it's about. So let's go back and let's go ahead and start our scriptures. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. Actually, I will probably title this the Feast of Leavened Bread. So you'll already know just by clicking on the video that I am wholly going to teach in this video that you are supposed to be eating leavened bread. Leavened bread, as we learned in the previous video, if you watch that, is the bread you would eat when you're celebrating. You want the best of everything, the best of bread, the best of you have the richest pieces, the richest cuts of meat, and the finest grape juice. So, leavened bread is what you should be eating, but even that is not an actual holiday. The unleavened bread thing is just made up. It's just made up entirely. So let me read this again, because it just occurred to me that you're probably going to know before you click on this that I believe that this is just made up. On the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall serve all work therein. But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. In the 7th day is a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. So that is our introduction to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, where it's listed as part of the annual feast of the Lord, the day after the Passover. It actually begins on the day of the Passover, but the way that it's written, because it was just added in, they just tacked it onto the bottom and they said it begins on the first day, meaning the Passover. Let's continue. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. So this is Exodus 12, where we're given instructions for the Passover. And we're told about the lamb, to eat the lamb, and we, of course, know now that is a symbol of Jesus sacrificing himself. It's not bitter herbs, it's eat it in bitterness. But we're not really told what unleavened bread is. In the New Testament, unleavened bread is introduced as being something bad, leaven from the Pharisees. But there's one reference in the New Testament as well where leaven is actually good. Well, there's more than that, but there's one obvious parable where leaven is introduced as something that is good. So here we are told why they're eating leavened bread. Why we're told we're eating leavened bread. We're just never really told what it symbolizes, what it's for. That's what I meant to say before. We don't really know what it's for during the Old Testament. So let's go ahead, because they actually tell you a bunch of different reasons why. It changes throughout the Bible. I didn't put all of those scriptures in here, but when you read it, it'll say, eat it because of this, because you came out in haste, because of this, because of that. Yeah, this is just one reason. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. One moment. They might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their cloths upon their shoulders. So, a kneading trough is hold on, I need to get this out of the way. Let's get the dictionary here. I thought it was in here. Kneading. I must have pulled it up in the older dictionary. So let's look up dough box. A dough box is a rectangular wooden box mounted on legs that is used as a work table and a storage box. So that's basically what the kneading trough is. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, and their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and we don't need all of that. Let's just jump down here. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry. Neither had they prepared for themselves any victuals. But see, there's a problem with that. See, when women make their bread, they don't let the bread just sit and then come back and put leaven in it. When they make the bread, they put the leaven in it. The idea that a woman over a household would sit her bread out for hours and just hope that nature would leaven it on its own is, if you know anything about cooking for a family, that's kind of ridiculous. No one is going to do that. They're going to keep leaven from their old loaf. They're going to put it in the new loaf, and then they're going to put it in the dough box so that it can rise. As a matter of fact, this box is specifically made for dough to rise. It's to protect it from the area around it, from bugs, from the elements. After you get your dough leavened, you put it in this box. It's even incorporated. Leaven is even incorporated in the name. That's why I'm clicking on the definition now. So you have mishareth, a kneading trough or bowl. And I want you to take a look at, you know what, it'll probably take a minute to get over to Strong's, but let's go there anyway. Yeah. Well, I'll pause you while we wait. Okay. I wanted to bring it up like this because I want you to see the word bigger. It's bigger in Strong's. So the key word is the word. Let's look up this word. And you know what? I'm going to look it up in the extended dictionary so that you can see it side by side. Okay, so we'll look at it in Strong's. Okay, so this is the word for yeast here, and this is the origin word for both of them. Okay, so the word for yeast, W, and then this little N thing, and then the 7 character. It's right in the name for kneading dough. It's right in the name. The word for yeast. It's included as part of the name for the tool which you use to raise your dough. Oh, hold on. I'm going to pause you again because I'm going to go back to this. Okay, so let's go back here. So what happened, the only thing that really could have happened was when it says before it was leavened, they must have meant before it was risen, because there was leaven in the bread already in order for it to be put in a kneading dough. But that doesn't make any sense, because how is it that they had the dough on their backs, fully prepared, moved all the way out of Egypt, and then it hadn't risen? So there's some deception here somewhere. Let's go ahead. And they baked unleavened. Well, we already did that. And the woman had a fat calf in the house, and she hastened and killed it, and took flour and kneaded it, and did bake unleavened bread. This woman, she was in a hurry. So she took the flour, she kneaded it, she made her base, her dough, and then she immediately cooked it. She had no need for dough. She baked unleavened bread. That's why she didn't sit and wait for it to rise. And no one is going to sit for 8-9 hours. A woman who is keeping up a house would not do that. That doesn't make any sense. She just bake unleavened bread and borrow some yeast from a friend, or set it out at a later time separately in order to build up that base so that she can have leavened bread at a later time. Who's going to hold up their dinner for hours with hopes that their bread might rise? With hopes. You don't have any guarantee. That's why you would never do that. That doesn't make any sense. If you are a cook, if you are a mother or a woman over a household, you know that doesn't make sense. You don't do that type of stuff with hopes that your bread might rise. You just don't. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which ye came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. Again, it's just out of the blue. What? Remember coming out of this place? You would think that they would say something about the sacrifice of Jesus. Of course, they couldn't, because that had to be hidden until after it was done. Otherwise, Satan wouldn't have done it. But just out of the blue, they start talking about unleavened bread, as though we're supposed to know what this means. This day came ye out in the month of Abib. I think we can skip this. No, let's just read it. Yeah, let's skip it. 7 days ye shall eat unleavened bread, and in the 7th day shall be a feast unto the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leaven be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters. Listen, we are in chapter 13 of Exodus. They just came out. They just came out of Egypt. So you would think they would be talking about the sacrifice, the fact that the 10 plagues had fallen, for them to be grateful that the firstborn wasn't killed. And they do make mention of the firstborn here, and he consecrates the firstborn to himself. But they go off on no mention of the Passover, by the way. Passover I don't think it's mentioned at all. Let's see. There's no mention of the Passover. Let's just search real quick. Or it's not here. No mention at all of the Passover. They just came out of Egypt, and they're doing this whole rant about unleavened bread. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, which they did not do. And there shall no leaven be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters. And thou shalt show thy sons in that day, saying, This is done. Eating unleavened bread is done, because of which the Lord did unto me when I came forth out of Egypt. What does that have to do with anything? They did not do this. They didn't do it. They ate leaven one day. If they ate leaven one day, why couldn't he just give the order to eat it all 7 days? Why then, if they ate leaven this day, and they said, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. If he can give the order to eat unleavened bread this day, what then would be the purpose of all of this? Why not just say eat unleavened bread? Oh, hold on. I'm going back. Okay, wait a second. We did that. I'm looking for... Here we go. What then would be the purpose of all of this? What's the purpose of this? If he gave the order on the very first day to eat unleavened bread, why couldn't he just say eat it 7 days then? Then we could say that this makes more sense. Eat it 7 days. They didn't do it. They didn't eat unleavened bread all 7 days. But it's supposed to be some great memorial now. Let's go on. And unleavened bread and cakes unleavened, tempered with oil, and wafers unleavened, anointed with oil. Of wheaten flour shalt thou make them. So I put this in here because I wanted to point out that bread is considered leavened unless they put unleavened on it. Cakes are considered unleavened unless they... I said that backwards. They're considered leavened unless they put unleavened on it. Cakes are considered leavened. Cakes is actually the word for challah, I think. Challah bread. Yep, challah bread. Cakes are considered leavened unless they put unleavened on it. Tempered with oil and wafers are considered leavened unless they put unleavened on it. So, all of these are considered leavened. They're naturally leavened. Okay? And unleavened bread and cakes unleavened. As a matter of fact, let me tell you something. I don't know if you guys have been members for a while, or if you've been listening for a while. You know, there was a time when I made unleavened bread. I made it from scratch. I was so proud. And then the Holy Spirit just said, "No, Grace, you're going backwards. No, don't do that." But, so, and it wasn't me. I know it was not me because I was very proud of myself having done it. But the Holy Spirit was like, no, you're not supposed to be doing that. You're going backwards. So anyway, though, I can't remember the exact time. But when I was researching how to make it on YouTube, they said that you have about 8, it was like, let's just say 10 minutes because I can't remember the exact time. Let's say you have about 10 minutes before that bread starts to naturally leaven. 10 minutes before it's considered leavened bread. Because it's just going to automatically start to leaven on its own. It just takes a long time to completely leaven a loaf of bread. So, bread is just going to naturally leaven unless you cook it right away. And unleavened bread and cakes unleavened, tempered with oil, and wafers unleavened, anointed with oil, of wheaten flour shalt thou make them. This is what's going to go into the basket. And thou shalt put them into one basket, and bring them in the basket with a bullock and 2 rams. So this is going to go into the basket they're going to have when they consecrate the priests. We're in the same chapter. And 1 loaf of bread. Hold on, let's start from here. And thou shalt take of the ram the fat and the rump, and the fat that covered the inwards, and the caul above the liver, and 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and the right shoulder, for it is a ram of consecration. And 1 loaf of bread, and 1 cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer out of the basket of unleavened bread, that is before the Lord. And thou shalt put all in the hands of Aaron, and in the hands of his son, and shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And that thou shalt receive them of their hands, and burn them upon the altar for a burnt offering. Now, it might seem like you could use context here in order to say, no, we've already been told the basket is of unleavened bread. Just hold that thought. This isn't the scripture. They're out of order. But you'll see what I'm talking about shortly. And thou shalt make thee no molten gods. Oh, I guess we didn't need that. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep 7 days. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread as I commanded thee in the time of the month of Bib. For in the month of Bib thou came from Egypt. This is the renewed covenant. This is the renewed covenant. This is after they made the golden calf. So they renewed the covenant. The only mention of the Passover is down here somewhere. I don't remember where it is, but it's just let's search for it. This is the renewed covenant. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to look at that because I got to highlight it. Let's just skip it for the moment. Well, I don't think I was going to look at that, but we'll look at it now. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. No mention of burning the calf as part of the covenant. No mention of the burnt offering. As I commanded thee in the time of the month of Bib. For in the month of Bib thou came out of Egypt. I just want you guys to consider what this sentence actually says, because it says it's utter nonsense. Well, maybe not. How? Just explain to me, how did the topic change from the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the month of Abib? If I have here, the Feast of Unleavened Bread shalt thou keep 7 days. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread as I commanded thee in the time of the month of Abib. How does this make sense? How do you jump from the Feast of Unleavened Bread to the month of Abib? What relevance does that have toward the Feast of Unleavened Bread? It doesn't have any relevance. The sentence wasn't written like this. The sentence was the Feast of, I'm just going to call it the Feast of Passover, because I don't really know what the name would have been called. The Feast of Passover shalt thou keep, as I commanded thee in the month of Abib. For on the day of the Passover, or whatever, thou camest out from Egypt. That was what was originally written. This doesn't make any sense, because the topic is unleavened bread, but then the reason for unleavened bread is the very time that they gave you to keep it. Keep it because it's Thursday. Of course you want to keep it because it's Thursday. You came out on a Thursday, didn't you? What? Be reasonable. This doesn't make any sense. It couldn't have been written like this because it's nonsense. Just leave this part off. If you don't know the reason, don't tell me to keep it on that day, because it's that day. Anyway, whatever. But anyway, this is the one mention of the word Passover. So offensive. I didn't want to put it in here twice, but here it is. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left until the morning. So I've got this in here later. I've tried to skip it, but I forgot that I put it in here for the Passover. So listen, I don't know who it was that was running into that temple with a loaf of bread, chucking it in people's blood, and then running and throwing it on the altar, trying to sacrifice blood with leaven in it. But whoever did that, that had to be terribly annoying for them to put this in the Bible twice. God looking down saying, nah, I know you're going to run in that temple and take some leavened bread and chuck it in somebody's blood and try and offer it on my altar. So let me just make sure you know not to do that beforehand. Blood wasn't supposed to be offered on the altar. Leaven wasn't supposed to be offered on the altar. But yet there's 2 warnings, a minimum of 2. It's probably more. Don't do it. Neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left unto the morning. These people are playing in our face. The things that they're saying in here just don't make any sense. First, it doesn't make any sense. Well, let me just tell you why they added this on here, by the way. They added this on here because this is one of the little code words. We've spoken of this before. They have these little phrases that they put in there so that they can know and they can be smarter than everyone else. When they see that, yeah, that's a lie. That's something we wrote. And they can giggle amongst themselves. In the unclean foods, they put, I am holy, so you be holy. You see it all over. Whenever they speak of unclean foods, I am holy, so you be holy. As though not eating a sandwich of unclean foods is going to somehow make you holy. When Jesus said exactly the opposite. If you believe that not eating a pork chop sandwich is going to make you holy, you need to go back to the beginning and start again. Because it's not even close. Okay, hold on. My computer's moving a little slow. I hope I didn't skip anything there. Hold on. No meat offering which ye shall bring unto the Lord shall be made with leaven, for ye shall burn no leaven, nor any honey, in any offering of the Lord made by fire. So this is Leviticus 2, where they give us the law of the meal offering. Come to Bethel and transgress. I'm looking for that scripture that goes with the consecration of the priest. Must have made a mistake and put it down lower than I thought. Come to Bethel and transgress, and Gilgal multiply transgression. So Bethel is where they had the fake altar. And bring your sacrifices every morning, and your tithes after 3 years. They probably said 3 months or something like that, because they were mostly, gardeners. So every 3 months, they would probably just bring their tithes from the harvest. So it might have said 3 months, but for sure it didn't say 3 years, because that's not the way the tithe works. And offer sacrifices of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the freewill offerings. For this liketh you, O children of Israel, saith the Lord. So he's saying they're doing bad things, but he names off good things that they're supposed to do, but they're doing it the wrong way. Because if you don't offer to the Lord in the way that he designed, in the way that he has planned for you to do, then you're not obeying. Go read the story. I don't remember where it is, where in Assyria, in Israel, they're taken over by Assyria, and the lions, the Syrians they go to the altar. This is actually throughout the Bible. This is just the only one that I remember, because this is where I first learned it. So, when the Assyrians see the altar that they have built to God, they start offering sacrifices on the altar, and lions attack them. Well, when Israel broke apart from Judah, no one was willing to be a priest at this altar. So they had to get I want to say the word basest, but of the worst, but base means something good now in slang. So they had to get the worst, the very worst and the very lowest of people in order to make offerings on that fake altar, right? So when the lions started attacking the Assyrians, they went and got one of the temple priests to show them how to make offerings at the place. And the priests, which were the worst of the worst, you would think that if they showed them how to make offerings, that the lions would keep killing them. But that's not what happened. He shows them how to make offerings in the way that the Lord designed that the offering should be made. And there's no more mention of the lions at all. It's how you make the offerings. It's the fact that you are obeying. That's why they say that Solomon made offerings on the high hill. But it's how you make the offerings. You have to obey what the Lord said. And that's, like I said, it's echoed throughout the Bible. It's in several places, but I only remember that point at the time, right at this time. So they're making offerings. They're doing the wrong thing in the wrong area because they're supposed to be making it at the temple. Oh, hold on. I missed something there. Offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven. They tell us in here somewhere, I've got it marked, an offering of thanksgiving is a peace offering with leaven, which is burnt on the altar. But these are the good things that they're supposed to be doing that they're profaning with their other actions, which is offering an offering with leaven. Okay, I missed one. If he offer it for a thanksgiving, so this is a peace offering, then he shall offer it with the sacrifice of thanksgiving, unleavened cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and cakes mingled with oil. They just said unleavened cakes here, so why then say cakes here? Cakes mingled with oil of fine flour. Besides the cakes, he shall offer for his offering leavened bread with the sacrifice of thanksgiving of his peace offering. This is the priest's offering. And the priest that offereth any man's burnt offering, even the priest, shall have for himself the skin and the burnt, and all the meat that was baking in the oven. Okay, I made a mistake there. That's not the priest's offering. All right, we'll just leave that. My point here is that my point here is that they use unleavened cakes here and then cakes here. It's clear that unleavened cakes are unleavened and cakes are leavened. That's why we have words. If they can use it, unleavened cakes, in one place, they can use unleavened cakes in another. Besides the cakes, he shall offer for his offering leavened bread with the sacrifice of thanksgiving of his peace offering. Leaven was all over that altar. And this is just a repeat of the where that crazy person was running around throwing bread and people's blood offerings and throwing them on the altar. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice, because everyone else knew not to do this. So it had to be somebody that was rebelling. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. Okay, we're at 35 minutes. Let's see. I'm finished with the leaven part here. Okay, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with leaven, so this is a good place to stop. We'll stop here, and I will talk with you in the next video.